Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People. In today's episode, neighbor says I was trying to cheat him out of my TV. Everyone here knows me. No, they don't. My elderly dad, who I have been caretaking for, refuses to pay me the proper amount. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Neighbor says I was trying to cheat him out of my TV. I am having a house built, but bought a TV during Amazon's Prime Days. I had it sent to my grandparents' house to be stored until the house is done. The package never arrived, and after a couple days, the picture from the delivery was on the FedEx site. I sent it to my grandfather, who recognizes it as his neighbor. He calls the neighbor, who claims that he ordered the same exact TV and didn't realize he opened mine. I did not ask him to contact the neighbor. The neighbor says his is coming in the following week and will give me his, as it's the same exact TV. A few hours later, he says I called Amazon, who said for me to keep this TV and for you to call them so they can replace it. I tell him that my refund/replacement has already been denied multiple times and that I was told to contact local authorities/law enforcement, but I would call again. The next morning I call Amazon, who tells me that my claim was denied again and that I should still try to get my TV back, since I know where it is. I call the neighbor, who is now saying he has to send my TV back when he gets his in. I tell him not to, that I want my TV even if it's open. He's an old dude, so I was using yes sir and no sir. I was trying to be polite, as he has my expansive TV. He hangs up and sends me a long text about how he has my TV and won't be giving it back. And I just say to verify, "You're refusing to give me my TV?" He calls me back and says, "Yo, stop harassing him." So I drive over to my grandfather's house, he is out of town, and call the cops. After some back and forth phone calls with the cops calling me and the neighbor, they come out. Cops showed up because the dude said I am committing fraud and cheating him out of a TV. After I showed the cops the texts where he says he has my TV, pictures of the box he sent me with my name on it, and where my refund was denied, they went to talk to him. He changed his story for the 5th time to say I already got a refund and that I am trying to fraud Amazon. End of the day, I got my TV back and the neighbor calls my grandfather. Grandfather calls me saying that I discredited him, he meant defamation. He says that I called the cops on his neighbor and cheated him out of a TV. The neighbor is claiming he won't get his package now because he was supposed to keep mine. This old dude was so entitled he thought he had a right to my TV. I don't think he even ordered one in the first place now. Edit, for those of you curious, the cops were only able to get it back because of our state laws. In most states, they are required to give the package back if the person it was addressed to contacts them. The "you can keep mis-delivered packages" only applies if it was addressed to you in the first place. No way that guy ordered the same TV, he was just trying to keep giving different excuses until you gave up. This is what everyone believes except for my grandfather. Even my grandmother tells him he is wrong, and she usually stays quiet when he says crazy things. Of course, he didn't order the exact same TV at the same time. Tell your grandfather to ask for the neighbor's receipt. If he bought the same TV, Amazon has proof, right? That's an easy screenshot for evidence. My grandfather thinks that's not necessarily. He has it in his head that age makes people more trustworthy. I showed him all my screenshots. The guy only sent pictures of the box with my name on it. If Amazon mistakenly delivered it to the wrong address, isn't it up to them to make it right? Also, I've always gotten the delivery picture sent to me right after it's delivered. Tell Grandpa he needs to ask neighbor to show proof that he even ordered TV. You had a right to call the cops on a thief, but at least now you know Grandpa's house isn't a safe place to send things to. Just FYI, for people who go through something similar, all you have to do is tell Amazon the picture they sent is not of your address. You do not have to tell them you know the picture is the neighbor's. Based on personal experience, trying to help Amazon with added details never works to your favor. Let them figure out where the address is and let them handle the return and redelivery of your merchandise. Everyone here knows me. No, they don't. For a period of about 3 years in the early 2000s, I worked as a bank teller. For the most part, it was a good job. My customers were nice, my coworkers were fun to be with, and I enjoyed myself. The branch I worked at was in an area of town that had a lot of retired people who had all purchased their homes 50 years earlier and had never left. They were retired factory workers, construction workers, police officers, firefighters, teachers, and service industry workers. I say that to point out that this was a solidly working-class neighborhood that definitely skewed toward an older demographic. At least 50% of our day-to-day business was with customers who had been coming to that branch since the Kennedy administration. This was a problem for new employees. We would regularly get yelled at by *TCHY old Karens when we asked for identification, something required to access bank accounts if the teller couldn't personally vouch for you. Now, most old Karens and Kevins would get pissy for a moment and claim that they've never been asked for ID before, bullshit, but they'd eventually relent and give me the ID I required. But, not Queen Karen. Now, I had been at this branch for over a year at this point. I had gotten to know almost all of the regulars and no longer needed ID for them. If Mary came in, I could pull her account up in a heartbeat since she was in 3 days a week. If Ed needed to cash a check, I did it without question since Ed only ever came to me and I got to know him well. Enter Queen Karen, QK, a woman in her late 70s absolutely dripping in both diamonds and arrogance. The woman had some serious money and wanted everyone to know it. As I said, this branch was in a solidly working-class area, but QK was wearing tens of thousands of dollars in diamond jewelry and had pulled up in a brand new Mercedes S-Class. From the moment she walked in the door, she wore an expression like she was being forced to handle warm dog shit. Me, good morning, ma'am, how can I help you today? QK, I need to pull $5,000 out of my savings, all in hundreds, please. She hands me a withdrawal slip with her name and account number filled in. Me, certainly, ma'am. I just need a photo ID, please. QK, no. Me, excuse me? QK, I have never been asked for ID before and I won't be asked for it today. Everyone here knows me, so just do what I ask. Me, okay, ma'am. Can you tell me which teller knows you? If they sign off on the withdrawal form, I'll be happy to help. This was allowed as an acceptable ID, but we were told it was only to be used for customers who a branch employee knew personally and could guarantee was who they said they were. It also protected me. If another teller signed the withdrawal form and QK turned out not to be who she claimed, the other teller would take the hit, not me. QK, everyone. Just go ask someone else. Me, of course, ma'am. Please give me a moment. I went to every single employee of the branch. I talked to every teller, every loan officer, our investment broker, and both the branch manager and assistant manager, AM, who will show up again in a moment. No one in that branch had a clue who QK was, including employees who had been there for more than a decade. Me, I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't seem to find anyone who knows you, so I will need to see an ID. I understand this is an inconvenience, but it is for your safety. We don't want someone to take money out of your account by pretending to be you. QK, no. I refuse to be treated this way. Everyone here knows me. I've been banking here longer than you've been alive and have quite a bit of money with your bank. Don't make me take my accounts elsewhere. At this point, AM heard the commotion and came over to see what was going on. I let her take over and deal with QK. She got paid for that, I didn't. After some back and forth about how I wasn't doing my job, how I was an incompetent boob, how she had so much money at that branch, and how asking for an ID was, in her view, accusing her of being a criminal, my AM was about ready to punch her in the face. AM, again, ma'am, we ask for ID to protect your account. Would you want someone to come in here and pretend to be you, taking money out of your account simply by giving your name? QK, don't be ridiculous. No one would do that. Now you're just making things up to cover for the fact that you and this teller are incompetent. My name is all you are going to get. Ma'am, if you do not show us an ID, we will not process your withdrawal. Period. QK, listen. Do you have any idea who I am? I'm half tempted to close my accounts here just to teach you a lesson. But, fine, you want to play it that way, then let's let you have your fun. QK proceeded to open her purse and throw her ID, her checkbook, a credit card, a social security card, an AARP card, and half a dozen other things at me like she was trying to kill me with them. With each card thrown at my face, she called me stupid, an asshole, worthless, a nobody, etc. That's it. Faustus, you have the ID you need. Please close this woman's accounts and issue a cashier's check for the amount. Me, all of them? All of them. She is no longer a customer here. QK, what the hell do you think you're doing? Ma'am, we tried to be polite, but you wouldn't have it. You will not insult me or my tellers. You most certainly will not throw things at them when they are doing their jobs. You are no longer welcome in this branch. We are closing your accounts and you are free to open accounts at another bank. That's exactly what we did. QK tried to scream about how we had no legal right to do that, but we did. Bank accounts are owned by the bank. Opening an account just means that the bank is allowing you to use them to hold your money and process your financial transactions. So long as all of the money in the account is returned to you, banks are well within their legal rights to close your account. It took about 10 minutes of QK screaming at both me and issuing hollow legal threats about lawsuits, but all of her checking and savings accounts were closed. I printed up a check for the mid-six figures, made out to her, signed it. I couldn't sign off on checks that high, and QK was shown the door. As a parting gift, told her that the police would be involved if she ever came back to that branch again. I love it when people get what they deserve. Should call other banks in the area and warn them of Queen Karen and how they may not want to allow her to be a customer. At the very least, tell them all to make sure to ask her for an ID to open an account and inform her that she will need to present one every time if she wants to do anything with her account. Future frustration guaranteed. That sounds like it could have been Queens County Savings in New York. When I was new there, I saw everybody known me here a lot. Only a few were rude about it, though. One became my favorite customer. He spoke very poor English, but lived in the neighborhood before the bank was built. The first time I saw him and asked for ID, he pointed over my shoulder and said something I didn't understand. We repeated the same thing a couple of times, until another teller deciphered his phrase, "That's my house." He was pointing out the window to the house on the other side of the parking lot fence. I worked at a bank as a floating teller. Meaning, I rarely was in a branch long enough to get to know customers. Often I was just there to cover the occasional sick day. I had this situation happen constantly. We also had a policy that if the amount was over $3,000, the ID had to be typed in, even if we knew the customer. That policy rolled out a year into me working there, and it was the most hellish 6 months for us while customers adjusted to that. And the conspiracy theories were wild. This was right after the election, and a bunch of people said things like, "Oh, Biden gets in office and all of a sudden you need my ID for reporting purposes?" The amount of times I had to say, "Biden does not care about your account." This was a bank decision. I was probably saying it in my sleep. I probably still say it in my sleep. I was at a bank a few years ago and a woman walked up to a teller. The teller asked for her ID. She said she never has to get her ID out at other branch where they know her. In my mind I'm thinking, if they know you at the other branch, why don't you just go there then? My elderly dad, who I have been caretaking for, refuses to pay me the proper amount. I've done other posts on here about my dad and my sister. Both have levels of narcissism, which has been very difficult for me. My mom passed away nearly 3 years ago, which is difficult every day as she was the person I was closest with in my family and very similar to me. About 8 months ago, I started essentially full-time helping my dad as his health problems worsened and his state and age worsened. He has had mobility problems and walks with a cane/walker. He also has a heart failure to some degree and kidney disease to some degree. He was in the hospital earlier in the year several different times, and pretty much since that happened I essentially gave up my apartment at the time and came to help him. For me it was always going to be temporary, never a permanent long-term situation. However, I have been here almost a year and have full-time been helping him. I do the meals, grocery shopping, upkeep of the house, bringing him to medical appointments, doing the laundry and the dishwasher, pretty much everything including clearing his dishes in general so he is comfortable. One of the biggest levels of narcissism he has is control of finances. He likes to feel needed. He has given me $500/month each month that I've been here. If you were to hire a caretaker, they would charge that probably per week. I have let it slide for a long time, but it has bothered me. Several months ago, I brought it to his attention and told him I'm not comfortable with that amount anymore, and that I've basically given up my life and then I'm there looking after him and doing everything, and he dismissed it at the time. About a week ago, we got into an argument because I basically told him I am planning to leave this fall. I could tell he was trying to act like his ego wasn't hurt and he was fine with it and wanted me to leave, although he obviously wants me to continue helping him at the small rate I am. When this happened, he said some pretty sick things to me. He basically said he wished I, and my sister, was never born and I was the biggest regret of his life. Obviously, these are very sick things to say. After this happened, I stopped helping him altogether. He was able to start making himself a sandwich for dinner and doing basic meal prep, and I haven't lifted a finger. Each day he has tried to talk to me about it, even yesterday offering me $1 to go out and get him dinner. I told him no, and then I have my terms which he hasn't agreed to, and of course his ego got hurt again and so he went out himself and got himself food. Today I had a moment where I caved emotionally. I got angry at the fact that he doesn't seem to be budging and can't simply treat me with respect. I told him that it's pretty amazing he would rather be stubborn than actually say he needs me for help and that he's going to compensate me properly and treat me properly. Whenever I have brought up compensation, he always says that everybody he knows has their children just help them and don't care about money. I, 32F, have sacrificed a lot to be here helping him. He seems to not care about that because he always acts like I'm lucky to be here, not the other way around. At this point, it's been probably 5 or 6 days and I haven't done any sort of meal prep, I haven't done any shopping, haven't lifted a finger. I have been looking for an apartment, a new one rather, for several weeks at this point. I went to see one and I'm trying to continue looking so that I can leave this situation. In the interim, it's hard that I am financially dependent on him because he uses things like this and now is essentially not giving me money that feels owed to me with everything I have done. I have done the research, and the average caretaker receives between $1,500 to $2,500 a month. I would even be willing to flex and do $1,000 a month in the interim while I am still here. He has the finances and simply doesn't want to do it out of principle and control. You need a job outside also, so you can build up enough money to get out. Even a part-time job. I took care of my mom. I was contacted by APS and told I was earning less than minimum wage, which is illegal. She provided for me, but I was there 24/7. That was over 10 years ago. I gave myself $750 a month. You need to reach out to caregiver websites/resources. Get a job that actually pays. Dad can live on sandwiches until he realizes all that you did do for him. At the end of my grandma's ability to live in her house alone, she paid a nurse/CNA to stay with her. It was way more than $500. You have dropped a good portion of your life and ability to earn to help him. $500 is cheap. Tell him to speak to your sibling or hire a housekeeper. Find out what public, government, insurance, etc. services are available to him and leave. Be firm. If he's on Medicaid, it will pay you for being his caretaker through a program called self-direction. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.